Best comic book artists of the 80s and 90s are Jim Lee, Todd McFarlane, John Romita Jr., Rick Leonardi, Paul Smith, Mark Silvestri, and the one to rule them all, Bill Sienkiewicz. I bet he could make a drawing with a twig, dipped in some cola, and win the Eisner for best cover. So let's take a look at 3 of his most iconic styles and draw something similar. The first one is the New Mutants one, because that's where I saw him first when I was about 12. And it was so different from the Neil Adams Batman jumping off a roof type of comics. It was like real kids hanging out with cool superpowers. Usually it was really realistically drawn, and I'm sure he used photo reference, like this Alfred Hitchcock. And I also found some of the Elektra photos. Awesome. But then other times it was weirdly minimal and contorted poses, but with such a connection to the emotion of the story. The figures are very elongated. I think that was a very 80s thing, like Arthur Adams did as well. So let's give it a shot. Substitute Marky Mark for Skinny Sam. Easy choice because he already has the outfit here. And he will be holding Ileana, another favorite of mine, thanks to Arthur Adams. Okay, so first the pose. Very elongated, tall and skinny. This is almost Jim Lee-ish, so let's redo. So very long torso and boobs much lower than other artists usually draw them. So definitely more realistic than the others. Okay, Sam has those big ears and the 80s haircut like Drago in Rocky IV. Okay, onto the inking. I turned the smoothing a little bit lower, so it has less of a smooth curve to the lines. But it's not really looking good, so let's redo Ileana. Okay. So Sienkiewicz always feels like it's very rough and quickly inked. So let's add a layer and just do some rough inking on top. Maybe that'll make it look better. There's different ways to get that old vintage color effect. Today I'm just gonna grab a little patch from the examples and then use the healing brush tool to make it bigger and then just delete the excess. I'll make a video just on doing vintage colors later, so subscribe if you don't want to miss that one. Add a noise filter to the black and boom, cool. Okay, let's go to the next style, which is his painted one. The one from the Daredevil Limited series or Elektra Assassin. This here is gorgeous. Reminds me of his watercolor scenic paintings on his website, like filling out random shapes with slightly different colors, kind of like cubism. And one other thing that Sienkiewicz does often is use these circle effects and then a certain mouth shape, which he probably got from The Mirror. Okay, so let's start from some reference, which is Sienkiewicz himself and James Dean. Yeah, gonna add those circles. Okay, first of all, I'm gonna try to draw a realistic portrait, a blend of them both. So I'm kind of taking the smile from Sienkiewicz, but the shading and the eyes from James Dean. Take some of my watercolor patterns, mix them up. And I think this style is just anything goes. So just gonna blend, duplicate, overlay, just play with the effects of the layers. And it's not really looking good, so let's see if I have my proportions right. Let's do like a generic distortion line over it. And use my favorite distort tool to make it fit. Yep, better. In the Elektra series, Gareth is kind of feels like a really realistic portrait with just black lines over it. So I'm gonna recreate that now. Let's play with that hair. And it's circle time. Now this is super easy with Photoshop. 1980s colors and what's 1980s as well? Polaroids. The Flashdance font? No. The Kinski Uncut font? Yes. Better. Let's just use... How about James Dean's real signature? Yeah. That looks weird. Okay, style number 3 is the sketch style. Very sharp lines. This looks sneakily easy because it's just a few lines, but I have a feeling it's harder than the other two. And this has to be ink, of course. So let's try it in ink. First without pencils. And let's try it with pencils. Second try. Better, but it doesn't really scream Sienkiewics yet. Let's keep going. Let's do a daredevil. I read that he also draws with a ballpoint pen, so let's do one in ballpoint and one in ink. If I don't do underlying pencils, the anatomy is way off, but with the underlying pencils it loses that energy. So tricky stuff. Let's give it one more try. I was looking at this example, and let's do it with a micron this time. Some circles. Okay, I think I'll have to call it a day with this. 3, 2, 1. Cool. I think that new Mutants one is probably the one that looks best. I hope I did the master justice, and I hope that you enjoyed it. Check out the other deep dives I did in this playlist, and catch you next time.